create dashboards and reports in Zoho Bigin. The next thing we want to check out in Zoho Bigin is the dashboards. And dashboard is where Zoho Bigin allows us to see what exactly is happening in our business. We can see what is happening with the deals. We can see what is happening with our contacts. We can also see what is happening with the different modules that we have in Zoho Bigin. We can even see what is going on with our tasks and our activities, and we can see how each of the users are responding to each task and activities in Zoho Bigin. So a dashboard in Zoho Bigin is just a visual representation or a visual summary of all your data in Zoho Bigin. So it allows you to include rows, it allows you to include columns, it also allows you to show your chart, your graph, whatever it is you want to add, you can add it in your Zoho Bigin dashboard. So the dashboard just allows us to be able to see whatever is going on in our business. And like I said, you can create dashboard for the different modules that we currently have in Zoho Begin. As you can see, these are the dashboards that have been created by Zoho Begin itself. And we have the deal dashboard, we have the tasks, we have the events, and we have all of this. We can also decide to create a new dashboard if we want, and we can also pick whatever dashboard have been created by Zoho Begin, and we can customize that dashboard ourselves. So for instance, we can edit each widget in this dashboard, and we can edit the particular widget, or we can delete it, or we can even clone it, or we can print the widget. And also we can add in new components into this dashboard. And as you can see, this is our deal dashboard, and all of this widget has been added by Zoho Begin. And we have the open deals for this month, we have the deal one for this month, we have the deal loss for this month, the revenue one for this month, and we have the open deals by stage, we have the monthly revenue by users, and all of this can be tracked in your dashboard. So to create a new component, all you need to do is just to click on new component. So as you can see, when you click on the new components, you can see the different component that we have, and we have the KPI component, which allows us to be able to show only one number. And for instance, we can see the revenue for the month, we can see for the revenue for maybe last month, or the revenue for this year. So KPI just help us to show one number, like the number of those one, the number of open deals, and KPI just represents one important number. So the chart widgets help us to show data that have been broken down visually. So you can check maybe through a bar chart, or you can check through a line chart, or you can check through a donut chart or a pie chart. Whatever chart you want to use can be done by using the chart widget. For example, we can say that we want to see all of our deals by stage, and we can create a funnel chart to be able to show how many deals we currently have in each stages of our pipeline. We can also say that we want to use a pie chart where we can be able to see the different deals in various industries in our business. And if we're using the column chart, we can also see the column chart or the bar chart. We can say we want to see all the deals that are owned by the different users, in our organization, and that is for chat. And the last component, which is the target meter allows us to be able to compare our current performance to a goal. So let's say for instance, we want to create a deal target for this year, and the deal target we are planning to check in all our deal closed one deal should be $1 million for the year. Then the deal target allows us to be able to create a deal gauge where we can see where we currently are to our 1 million goal. So we can also check in things like the monthly revenue goal, the quarterly sales targets, the number of deals to close before the year runs out. And also remember that KPI shows the number, while chart is going to help us show the breakdown, and target meter is going to show our progress to a goal. Let's try to create a new dashboard, and let's see how that is going to look like. So here we are going to click on new dashboard here, and we can create this dashboard, and we can name this dashboard. So I'm just going to name this dashboard general dashboard, as we'll be bringing different things into this dashboard. And you can also decide who you want to see this dashboard. You can say only you can see this dashboard, or you can say you want all the users in your organization to see this dashboard. You can also select custom users to go into this dashboard, and say you only want to select some users to go into this dashboard. So when you click on custom, you can be able to pick the users you want to add to this dashboard, or you can just pick all users if you want. So I'm just going to pick all users for this, So that has been added in. And what this means is that if I create this dashboard, all users in my organization can be able to view this dashboard. It is very important to know that if you are creating dashboard that have to do with sensitive information, you have to make sure you share that with only the people in the top level of hierarchy in your business. For instance, you are creating financial reports like the deals one, the money end, and the revenue that came in into the business. Those kind of reports might not be general reports, and you want to make sure that you limit the visibility of that report to only those in the top hierarchy of your business. So now we have the general dashboard as the name, and when we want to add in a component, we can just click on add component, and we can add in whatever components we want to add. So let's say, for instance, we want to add in a KPI, and for the KPI, we want to see all of our revenue that came this month, or we want to see the deals that was created this month, or whatever it is you want to see. You can just pick the different KPI that we have. And as you can see, we have different designs of KPI style. Why this is the first one, the standard one, allows us to be able to see a particular report in comparison to the last month's report or the previous period. So let's say we are checking revenue for this year, we can be able to check the revenue for this year and compare to the revenue of last year. The same thing applies for this. We can be able to check in the revenue, and we can see the increase in percentage or the decrease in percentage, so which is the growth index. And we have the basic one where we it does not compare, it does not do anything. It just show us the number of the particular thing we are measuring. So for instance, we can see the total contact that came in into our Zoho Begin account, and the basic just show us the number without the increase, without the growth index or whatever it is. And we have this one where we can be able to compare the different modules. We can say we want to check in the different deal that was created per industry, and we can see if there was a growth or if there was a decrease to the number of deals that was created last year. And also you can see the ranking where we can be able to check in for the top deal owners, or for the contact owners, or maybe the users that have the most won deals. You can be able to use ranking for that. So ranking just allows us to be able to see who has a higher number of deals, or higher number of contacts, or higher number of closed deals, and you can be able to create a ranking for that. So I am going to pick in the standard KPI, and I am going to say I want to check in for the all contacts that came in this year, and we want to see how there is if there is an increase or if there is a decrease with the contact that came in this year compared to the one for last year. So let's name this component, and we can name this this year contact. So let's just name that. So we are naming this widget this year contact, and we are adding a particular module, and we are adding the contact module. If you want to add a related module, you can also add that in. But since we are only checking for contacts, we are not going to add in a related module. And the next thing is the KPI metric. That means we are checking for the count of contacts, or you can check for the count, the sum of the contact score, or the average of the contact score, or the average of the number of employees, or whatever numbers you have in your custom fields in Zoho Begin. So we are checking for the number of contacts. We are going to pick count of contacts, and we can also add in a filter if you want. You can decide that you only want to check the contact that came in from Nigeria, or you want to check in the contact that came in from USA, or whichever country you want to pick in. You can also create a filter for that. And not only countries, you can decide to use your custom fields also. For instance, we can say we want to check in for only the contact that are using HubSpot, or only the contact that are using Zoho CRM, and you can just pick whatever filter you have currently in here. As you can see, we have different filters, and we can say we want to check in for contacts that are in a particular industry. All you need to do is just to pick the particular industry you want to add to this report. But since we do not want to include, since we want to check in for the total number of contacts that came in this year, we are not going to be adding any criteria, and we are going to remove this. Then the next thing is the duration, where we can be able to check the particular duration we are creating this report for. So we can say we want to check in for the contact that was created this year, or we want to check in if the contact was modified this year, or if the contact was modified this week, or unsubscribed this year. Just choose whatever you you think is going to work for the particular report you are creating. Since we are creating a report and we are checking in for contacts that are coming in this year, we are just going to use the created time is this year. If you are doing for this month, all you need to just do is to pick this month, and you can also pick a custom date if you want. You can say you want to check in for maybe you did a webinar, and after the webinar you want to see if there was an increase or a decrease in your contact. You can pick the date the webinar started, then up until today. But if you want to use the normal time, you can say the created time is this year. And since we are checking for this year contacts, we are going to pick this option. And we can then be able to decide if we want to compare to the previous period. So that means we are comparing this year to last year, or we can say we want to compare to the previous period relative. So the previous period relative, it's kind of weird, but I will try my best to explain it. So the previous period relative just means that if this report is created in June of 2025, it is only going to compare to the last year, to the previous year, June last year. It is not going to compare to the whole of last year, but up until June of last year. So that means if we are creating this report and we are checking it for the contact of this year, we can decide that we want to, if this report is in June, we can then decide that from January to June of 2025 should be compared to January to June 2024. So it is not going to be compared to the whole of the whole of 2024, but only to the particular time that you are currently in. I hope that's not confusing. So let me use my calendar to explain this. Okay, so this is my calendar. I want to try to explain the previous relative. So now let's say we have a report and we are in July, and we are checking in our reports and we are checking in for the total of the contact that came in from January to July. So if we're using the relative, we are saying that we are only going to compare January to July 2025 to January to July 2024. So instead of using the previous period, which is going to compare to the whole of January 2024, we are only going to use the relative. The relative means just to compare with what is currently going on. So we can say if we are using relative from January to February or whatever it is, the particular time that you are currently on in the report, that you are checking that report. If you are checking that report in February, if the date is February, or if you're checking that report in August, is only going to compare to the previous period of that particular time that you are in, not the whole of the previous period. Oh my god, I hope that's not confusing. Okay, so that is how to check the relative. And when you are done, we want to go back to our Zoho Begin. And since we are using the previous period, let's use the relatives to see how that works. And if you pick relative, it is only going to check for the particular period we have relative to last year. So we can consider an increase in value as positive. We can also say that if there is an increase in value, it should be considered as negative. And this is going to work if there is if there is an increase in deal loss or close loss. All of those increase can be considered as negative. Or if there's an increase in unsubscribed contacts, that is definitely a negative. So when you are done with all of this, you want to consider an increase as positive, and then you click on save. When you click on save, that is going to save your widget. And as you can see, this has been saved and it is comparing to last year. And you can see that we have an increase of 165%. And last year, by this time last year, we had 20 contacts, but now we have 53 contacts, and that is an increase. And we can also add in another type of KPI if you want. And let's say we want to add in maybe the top deal owners, or want to check in for the top industries that we have. So let's say we want to create this for contacts, and we want to check in for a related module. So you can add in whatever related module you want to add in if you want. But let's say we want to check in the duration should be created time is this year, and we can say that we want to rank this by a particular field that we have in the begin. So let's say we want to use the lead status for instance, and instead of using you can also use lead source, you can also use whatever it is you want to have, but just make sure that that thing have the various options like this. and let's say we are using the lead status and want to compare the top 5, or you can say you want to compare the top 20, or maybe the bottom 20, whatever it is you want to compare. And let's say you want to compare the top 10. I don't think we have up to 10, but let's just add 10. So we can say that the created time is this year, and we want to compare to the previous period instead of the relative, and we are considering an increase to be positive. Okay, so let me explain this. So that means we are checking for the count of contact that is created this year, and we want to compare to the previous period, and an increase is going to be positive. And we are also going to rank this by the lead status, and we are checking for the top 10 lead status. I hope that's clear enough. And let's just add this, and let's say contacts by lead status. And this is going to create a comparison chart where we can be able to see our contacts by the lead status. So when you are done, you just click on save. And when you click on save, that is going to save this widget um into our dashboard. And as you can see, we have the different lead status in Zoho Begin. We have the open, and we can see that we have the none, where none of our contacts have lead status, and we have 33 of them. And you can see, compared to last year, that was an increase of 65%. And the people in open lead status, we have 100%. That means none of our contacts were in open status last year. So that is why it is an 100% increase. So now we can also add in another component, and let's see if we can add in another type of KPI. So let's say we want to check in for the increase, the percentage increase. Let's say we want to check in for the percentage increase of the deals that was created this year and last year. So let's say the revenue that came in from deals this year compared to last year. So we can say revenue from deals. Then we can pick a custom model, and instead of using contact, we are going to be picking pipeline, which is also deals. And you can say we want to check in deals from sales pipeline. And we can say we want to use the count of deals if you want, and the count of deals is just the number of deals that was created this year compared to last year. If you are using sum of amount, you are saying that you want to calculate the amount that came in from the deals this year compared to last year. You can also add in a criteria if you want for your deals, and you can also add in a duration. And let's say we want to see the created time of the deal should be this year. So if the created time of the deal is this year, that means every of the deals that was created this year, we are tracking all of those deals. And we can say we want to compare to the current period, or the previous period, or the previous period relative. Or you can use the same period as last year if you want, or you can use custom if you want. So we are using the previous period, and we are considering an increase to be positive, because if there is an increase from the revenue from deals, it is definitely a positive thing. So when we are done, we click on save, and when you click on save, that is going to add your increase. And as you can see, as at last year, we had 550. As at last year, we have $550 in deals, but this year we are having 1,604 in deals, and that is showing a 191.6%, and that is for an increase in revenue. So let's move on to the next KPI, which is chat. Chat just allows us to be able to see our data in a breakdown, maybe the bar chart, or we have the donut chart, the pie chart, whatever it is you want to add. So let's pick the most popular one that we have. People use bar chart a lot, and or the column chart a lot. So let's use the column chart, and we can use the column chart and say we want to check in the contacts based on the various industry that we have. So we can say the component name is contact by industry, and we are selecting a module, and we are selecting contact, and we can pick a related module if you want. And you can also say that for the y-axis, we want to check in for the count of contacts, and we are grouping these by the y. This is the y-axis, and this is the x-axis. So for the x-axis, which is the grouping, we can say that we want to check in for the industry. So we are checking in for everyone that is in a particular industry. And you can see more options here where you can be able to sort by maybe value ascending or descending. You can see the maximum grouping is 75 if there is more groupings in your Zoho Begin for that particular field. And you can also say that you want to add in a benchmark for y-axis, which is this. You can say you want to add in a benchmark for maybe 10 or whatever it is you want to add. I do not need that, so I'm going to take that off. And remember that you can also add in a criteria, and you can say that you only want to check people from Nigeria, or you want to only check people that are using HubSpot, or whatever it is you want to add in as the criteria. Then you click on save. And now that you have clicked on save, it is going to create a bar chart with the various contacts that are in various industries. As you can see, we have none for the we have none, and we have 42 in none. And for the consulting industry, we have 7. For the real estate industry, we have 6. So this is for our contacts by industry. And this is a column chart. We can also do the same thing if we are using a pie chart. And a pie chart is just going to allow us to be able to view what we just did in a pie. So we can also say that we want to check in for contacts by industry, but we want it in a pie chart. So let's just add in the name, and we are selecting contact, and we are selecting the count of contacts, and we are going to say the grouping should be industry. And when you pick in industry, you can also add in the filter, and you can also add in the options, the other options if you want. And then you click on save, and that is going to save your, oh yeah, it exists. So I'm just going to say 2. And when you click on save, that is going to save your components, and this exact thing is brought in here as a pie chart. So let's also check in how to create a heat map or an heat map in Zoho Begin. So the heat map just allows us to be able to compare two data at the same time. So for instance, we can say we want to check in the contact that came in into our Zoho Begin, and we also want to check in the tags that was created for all of these contacts. So we can say maybe contact by tags, or what, add in whatever name you want to add. And we can select the module we want to add this for. So let's say contact, and we can also pick task if you want. And the measure, the first measure will be the count of contacts. So we are checking for the count of contacts, and we can say for the first grouping, we want to check in the number of contacts that was created this year. So that means we can say created contact by this year, and that is going to add that for the first grouping. And for the second grouping, we can check in for the created task for this year. So we are going to go into task. Where is task? Yeah, we have the created time for the task, and you can pick in whatever condition you want, maybe year, month, whatever it is. You can also add in a filter if you want, and you can add in the more options. And when you click on save, this is going to help us to group the contacts by task. As you can see, we have 20 contacts created by last year, and there was no task created. But this year we add 50 contacts, and as you can see, we have four tasks that was created this year. So it is just to compare multiple records together. And you can also add in the target meter. Like I said, the target meter just allows us to be able to create a target for the company. So we can say first quarter of the year we want to meet our sales target, and we want to make $100,000 revenue. But if we create this sales meter, it will allow us to be able to gauge wherever we are in that goal, in meeting that goal. So for instance, we can pick the first one, and this will allow us to be able to add in various criteria, like checking the checking the deal target or the deal gauge for contact or for deal. So let's say we want to check in for contact. So let's just pick in contact, and we are setting this target for the entire organization, and we are picking the module, and we are using contact. And we can say we want to also add in a related module if we want, but we are not going to add that. We are going to say that we want to check in for the count of contact that was created this year. So the created time will be this year, and the target we are trying to meet is 100. We can be able to see where we currently are by using this dial gauge. So when you click on save, this is going to save the dial gauge, and you can see that we are currently in 53 contacts. So that means 53% of our target has been reached, and we have 47% to go. You can also create deal targets also. So for instance, let's add in a component and let's say we want to check in for deal this time around. And you can also check in deals and just pick in the same thing, but we are using this for deals. So let's say deals, and we are setting the target for the entire organization, and we are setting the pipeline for, I mean, we're setting the deals and we're using the sales pipeline. And the target metric should not be the count of deals, but should be the sum of the deals. Remember that sum of the deals is going to be the amount. And you can also pick a duration if you want. You can say the created time is this year or whatever it is you want to use. And you can also say that we are trying to meet a target of, maybe we're trying to meet a target of $3,000 for this year. And if we click on save, that is going to save this widget. And as you can see, even though we are going all onto $3,000 for this year, we are currently at 1,604, 1,604, and 53%, 53% of our deal has been, of our target has been achieved. But we still have, like, how many percent? So we still have 1,396 to achieve for us to get to our deal target. So the traffic light is also like the same thing, but you just add in this simple design. And we can also see this, instead of using this gauge, you can also use the single bar, where it just allows you to create a bar where you can see the target and what has been done. So you can also see the region wise. Maybe if you can check in for different the different countries or the different states or the different city, and see what revenue has been won from companies from that city. So when you pick on this, you can pick in the name, and let's setting the targets for specific users or specific roles, or we can even use pick list value. So let's say we want to check in for contact, and we want to check in for the particular, let's say we want to check in for the lead source. That's a very good example. So we can pick in for the various lead source that we have, and we can see what gauge can be created for each of them. So let's say I want to use all of this. Let's just trade show web. Yeah. Okay. So we can only pick 10. So that has been picked. And remember that we are creating this for contact, and we can add in a related module. And the target metric should be the count of the contacts, obviously. And we can set the duration time to be this year. So the created time is going to be this year. And we can say there is a common target for each of them, or there is an individual target. So let me explain this. So this means that we can be able to create a report, and we can say we are checking in for a particular pick list value for the contact. You can also pick for the deal. For example, you can check for the different stages of the deals. You can check for the different lead source of the contact. You can check for the lead status of the contact. Just pick whatever pick list view works for you, or that you want to create this for. And as you can see, I picked for contact, and it is showing all of these for my pick list for the contact. You can also pick industry as the pick list value, and you can then say that you want to select all of these lead sources to be added to this report. And we are creating this report for contacts. Remember, you can also add in the related module if you want. And we are using the count of contacts in here. And you can also add in a criteria filter if you want. And we are checking in for the created time is this year. And we can decide to use a common target, or we can decide to use an individual target. So the difference between the common target and the individual target is that if we're using a common target, we can say that we want everyone's target to be 1,000. Or we can say, you know what, we want to use the individual target, and we can set the different targets for each of them. So we can say for people for our advertisements, if the lead source is advertisement, we want our target to be 1,000. But if we're using code call, we want it to be a little bit higher than that. So we can say 2,000. You can just add in whatever target you want for each of these. But if you're using a common target, you can just say, you know what, we want all of this pick list value should be 1,000 or should be 100, or whatever works for you. And then when you are done with that, you can click on save. Before we click on save, we need to add in your component name. So let's say contact by industry. You can add in contact by industry, and when you're done, you click on save, and that is going to save. Oh yeah, let's say target. So we click on save, and when you click on save, that is going to add in that particular report. And as you can see here, we have all of this, and our target is 100. Okay, as you can see, we achieved zero from some ones, and we got one. For instance, for code call, we got one. For trade show, we also got one. So you can be able to see all of this, and you can be able to see your target and what you have achieved. Yeah, so for time's sake, we cannot be able to see the other target meter, but I would like you to take a look at it yourself and just see how everything works. I promise you it is very simple to set all of this up. So when you are done with everything, do not forget to click on save. And you can also decide that you want to view your dashboard in full screen, and you can be able to see all of your dashboard in this full screen. So you can click on escape to escape that. And also when we go into the new dashboard we just created, where is it? General dashboard. It is going to be under the created by me, and you can see your general dashboard, and you can also decide to edit it, and you can edit each of these yourself. You can expand it, you can drag it, just expand this if you want. You can rearrange this, you can reorder it however you want. You can drag in all of this module and just rearrange and just drag. Yeah, just keep dragging. Okay, so that is for that. And when you add in all of the modules you want to add, or sorry, when you add in all of the reports you want to add, make sure you click on save, so you can make sure that all of these has been saved in Zoho Begin. If you make all of these adjustments and you do not click on save, this data is not going to be saved in Zoho Begin. So let's click on save, and all of our components has been saved in Zoho Begin. So that is how to create dashboards in Zoho Begin. If you are using Zoho Begin for a while now and your business has started to grow, and you now have more complicated or more complex thing you would like to do in your CRM, and Zoho Begin is currently not able to do that for you, can help you in choosing a better CRM or a more complex CRM, and we can also help you to migrate all of your data from Zoho Begin to that particular CRM. So if you need help with picking a more complex CRM than Zoho Begin, we can also help you with that, and you can book the link in the description below. Also, do not forget to like this video and also share with everyone who you think might need this video, and also do not forget to subscribe to this channel, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.